I would say it's really hard for me to think about the world without being curious because I've always been someone who's pretty like open-minded and just down for whatever and kind of down to explore. But I think it's really key, especially for music writing, to be curious because there's a pull to wanting the clout of writing about whatever's popular. There's a real pull for that, because if you write about, tortured poets society and you give it a 10 or you give it a 2, like you will be getting engagement, you know? And yes, a lot of people have a lot of smart things to say about an album like that. I'm not discrediting that, but I think to be curious in your listening and in what you write about is actually way more rewarding, even if less people are reading it, because you'll end up getting to learn more. And it's just so important. Like, you might start to see and have more unique takes on mainstream art if you're willing to like go and learn about things you never thought you'd need to learn about. And so I think with music writing, that's sort of the key, is this sort of curiosity for discovery. Even if you like me and you're an intensive listener, you still have to be curious to go through the artist's like whole discography or to listen to an album for 12 hours and really just wonder what's happening musically on it and why. I think that that curiosity is what leads to opinions that are, your own truly, and like leads you to finding your own voice, which I think is what we're all looking for when we make something.
Yeah. As opposed to, I think this is good. I like this
Yeah.
because someone told me that this is what I learned, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Or, just repeating like the mainstream conversation online because like in criticism, we do kind of contend with what's being spoken about already online. And it's easy to just soak in those takes and then write something that just synthesizes what's already out there. But it's way more fun to say something that no one else thought of.
Yeah. Is there a difference in the way that you approach writing about the different kinds of music that you're interested in? Let's say an album of contemporary string quartet music versus a review of an ambient noise show,
Mm-hmm.
kind of two very different things.
Mm-hmm. It's also kind of publication dependent. I think the best classical reviews do really talk about, or I'm just saying classical for like a quartet, kind of in that vein, really do get into like the musical aspects of the piece and like what's going on and how the players are interacting with each other and engaging with each other. Like, that's really important, especially if it's like a premiere or a new work. And I think there's that element of it needs to be there. But I would say for like a lot of ambient and noise, it's all about the experience. A lot of that music isn't even about listening to it. It's about what happens when you're in the room and how you feel and who's there and the conversations you have. I was just at End Times like a month ago, which is a noise festival here in New York. And every time I go, like half of the experience is really just seeing who's there at 8 p.m. and who's there at 3 a.m. Like, how has the room changed? And what did I hear? Like, a lot of times, the sets there are like, I'm just using this as an example, but the sets are like 20 minutes and they're all over the noise range. Like, you might get people who are noise from like a free improv background versus people who are doing like harsh noise or like synth stuff. Like, it's all happening. Like, there's just a lot of different things at end times, and that's really exciting. And so talking about that variation is really important, I think, and it's less about like what was good and what was bad and more about like what happened and was being in that space good. And then I think when it comes to really talking about a piece of music, I do come to it from a theoretical perspective, or like I try to. Like, I always ask composers for their scores if they send me stuff. So,
That's awesome.
because I want to know. And there are some composers who write really fun scores, like Scott Walschlager. His scores are so fun. So it's like, of course, I'm going to want to see it, if I'm like listening to a piece. And yeah, and I think in some ways that's a little bit why like contemporary classical writing kind of stays in a little bubble, because it is such a different form than maybe writing about something a little bit more free, But I never want to sacrifice talking about the art and meeting the art at where it's at.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.